How's it going, everyone? So this is my fifth consecutive year of documenting the various military surplus firearms that I've acquired from the last 12-month period. So that's June of 2023 to June of 2024. Tell you under what circumstances they were acquired, online or at a shop or from a private seller, provide price examples of what I paid for these items, and also tell you a little bit about what I'm collecting and why. And 6 of these rifles are going to be Carcanos, so just preparing you all for that expectation. If you just want to skip ahead to where I show you the firearms I've acquired, I'll add a time marker in the description below, but I do want to provide some of my own commentary beforehand. This video and the subsequent videos before this are more time capsules than anything else. I've been collecting milsurps since 2012, and I really got into the community, I'd say around 2016, 2017, when I was actually able to invest time and resources into the hobby, and you really have to appreciate how much research and time is involved in this. In terms of trading or buying milsurps, I've been burned plenty of times. I've also gotten plenty of good deals. I've met some really amazing people who are passionate about collecting and shooting and researching and helping out their fellow collectors, or even helping out people who are just getting started. Now, if you're just getting into milsurps, I couldn't recommend enough making connections. That's joining gun boards, joining a board of a certain type of firearm that you're collecting, joining your state's gun collectors association. That's how you make deals, that's how you find books, that's how you make good connections, that's how you connect with experts. I will say that there is also a bit of a predatory element to this hobby. People, not everyone, but some people will try to take advantage of you, and many people in the community make a livelihood from selling military surplus, as this is a multi-million-dollar industry in the United States and probably in Europe. Not just firearms in general, but just the collecting element of it. What I'm trying to say is be an informed buyer, and if you continue collecting and reading books and making connections, you'll likely begin to specialize in collecting from a particular pattern or an era or nation or from a particular conflict. And that's completely typical for most of us, so continue blazing that path, learning as you go, but there are plenty of resources to help mitigate misfortunes or errors along the way as you learn. So what have I been collecting from 2023 to 2024? Well, I've been really focusing my collection on Carcanos. Big surprise there, right? Well, I've explained before, but they're really inexpensive right now, so you can build a good collection of all the different variants for not that much money. The market over the last 2 to 3 years has been flooded with them, so now's the time to grab them if you're planning on specializing in Carcanos, or you could also just specialize in one type of variant, which is enough to fill an entire wall. There are many niche differences even within one type of model. For example, the Mosquetos have a bunch of different configurations and upgrades and changes throughout the 50 years they were produced, so you could just focus on Mosquetos and focus on just the little changes and even just build a collection based on that. For me, I have all the standard Carcano models, so now I'm just chasing after manufacturers, but it's really about the game, and I think that's the really fun part about collecting. So I put together a graph showing all my Carcano purchases from the beginning of my collecting Carcanos to where I'm at now. And the average price I've paid for a Carcano is roughly $312. And honestly, prices have gone down since 2022. When you see that Royal Tiger Imports and J&G Sales are selling Mosquetos for $200 a piece with 10% off sales all the time, they dominate the market right now, and you're not going to see a secondary resale markets for them going above $190 for a long time. So Carcano collectors, enjoy the surplus gut while you can. Besides that, I've gotten into some Turkish stuff, and really that's most of it. A few odds and ends here, but really staying focused on Carcanos. If you do start to get into collecting, I highly recommend you get your CNR license or Curio and Relics license. It's only $30. It does not take very long to apply. It's very low effort. It just makes everything much better if you're collecting surplus firearms. You don't have to deal with local gun stores or obnoxious transfers, and you probably save, depending on how many milsurps you buy a year, you could probably save $300 to $400, which is enough to buy a milsurp in and of itself. So highly recommend a CNR license if you're buying a lot of milsurps. I also haven't been buying much in person. It's all been online or through various collecting communities. You can find in-person deals for sure, but monitoring all the various online retailers and boards is long-term probably the most prudent way to find deals on specific items that you're looking for. A lot of what I'm about to show you is really found this way through online or members of a specific community. So anyway, I've spoken enough, so let's jump into the first items. Okay, so first item on the list, I picked up a pair of Carcano Mosquito Modelo 1891s from J&G Sales for $229 a piece. Both were made by Gordon Valtrampia. One is from 1935 and the other is from 1936. These were hand selected, so I paid about $20 extra for hand select options. The only reason I did that is because they actually let you pick hand select for the type of bayonet latch. So we have this slide release here, which I'll show you, and then the other one I got was the lever release bayonet latch here. So like I was mentioning earlier, you can collect these different variants that have different changes, and I just didn't have those and wanted to add those to my Carcano collection. So it's technically 4 different latch releases, but the 3 most common are going to be these 3. So anyway, it's up to you guys if that's something, but I saw that as an option, so I might as well go for it. Both are refurbished, and these are part of the recent Italian imports, and they're in basic condition. Nothing's missing, and they're basically what you're going to find at J&G Sales. It's going to be what you find at Royal Tiger Imports for these mosquitoes. These are all basically from the same place in Italy. But yeah, nice Carcanos, 1935, 1936 condition. Again, as I mentioned, they're going to be refurbished, nothing missing, not really even any pitting. These are in good condition for, like I said, $190, $200, $220 tops if you get hand select for a piece of history. So next I picked up a pair of Turkish Mausers, the first being a Turkish 1893/38, and then we have the 1903/38. So these were originally Ottoman model 1893s and 1903s, made in Germany for the Ottoman military, but were upgraded to the standard Turkish model 38 configuration during the interwar period. The 38 is distinctly a collector's term instead of an official military designation, but it kind of helps distinguish some of the converted, distinguish them basically from their unconverted counterparts that are still out there. During the conversion process, both were rechambered to 8mm Mauser in the 1930s, and are good examples of German export model Mausers. One being a small ring receiver, as you can see, and the other being a large ring receiver. As far as condition, both have their standard dings and some pitting on the metal, and the stocks are going to be used. I mean, these were well-used rifles during their Ottoman time, and then they basically sat around or were involved in training during the Turkish period. But both are otherwise good shootable examples of the various Turkish conversion models. Did a video earlier this year about 38 Turkish conversion models, so if you're interested in learning more about these, go check out that video. And both of these rifles were purchased from private individuals. I paid $300 for the 1893/38, and then I paid $320 for the 1903/38. Both good rifles, and I've shot them both, and yeah, happy with them. And that's basically the market for these Turkish conversions right now. You're probably looking at about $200 for the KCAL 38s, and then yeah, around $300, $350 for the conversion 38s. Just to give you guys a heads up, the next 4 rifles are going to be from Royal Tiger Imports. Do not yell at me. I can justify why I purchased these from Royal Tiger Imports, so just preparing you all there. The first 3 I bought were bought together as a deal purchase essentially, and then the last one I purchased by itself. First off, I wanted an original Austro-Hungarian Mannlicher model 1895 long rifle in the original 8x50mm rimmed cartridge, and wanted to add it to my World War I collection. Just as an example, many of these were converted to 8x56R after the war and were shortened down to a carbine length. So this was pretty much the most cost-effective way to get my hands on one without, paying $500-$600. Again, you know what you're getting into when you spin the Royal Tiger Imports dice roll, if you will, especially since these came from Ethiopia and have been sitting in a goat shed for a long time. So it could be okay what you're getting, or it could be utter trash. I've seen examples of both. Mine, for example, had a broken extractor, a broken ejector. The bluing is okay, but it's off in many places, especially underneath the stock. There's plenty of wear, and it also had a 1977 dated Russian 7.62 by 54R casing in the chamber, which was probably the last thing this thing fired before the extractor broke. So I feel like I got an okay deal on this one, especially since I just wanted like a cheap example to put on the wall, especially for something that was $200. I'm not a Mannlicher guy, but just wanted one example for my collection. This was also a B grade example, so you get what you get when you're on their website. Not sure hand select or a non-B grade example is going to make much of a difference. Feel free to pay the extra $50, $100 for a regular example or a hand select. The only notable thing about this rifle that I thought was kind of interesting was it has the AOI, or Africa Oriental Italiana stamp on the buttstock. Again, these were brought to Ethiopia by the Italians during, or presumably before, World War II, when Ethiopia was an Italian colony, and they brought a bunch of this stuff, even though this is Austro-Hungarian, probably after the First World War. But captured a bunch of stuff, sent it down to East Africa, was probably used by the native militaries there, or the native soldiers that they had conscripted. So anyway, kind of an interesting piece of history. Went, made in Austro-Hungary, captured by the Italians, and then ended up in East Africa, and now back in the United States. So anyway, here it is. So this is another rifle that I wanted to add to my collection, but didn't want to really spend a ton of money on. So I decided to take the RTI dice roll on this Vettrli model 1870/87/15. I know it's a bit of a mouthful. And these were converted to 6.5 Carcano during the First World War as emergency conversions to free up Carcanos for frontline service. This particular one is dated to 1876. Much like the Mannlicher before this, this example cost $200, which RTI had labeled as a B-grade rifle. Again, it seems like it's a fairly arbitrary grading scale, but it was the cheapest option they had. As far as condition, the stock is all there. There's no issues. It has, like the Mannlicher, the AOI stamp on it, which was Italian East Africa. Bluing is par for the course for what you're going to get from RTI. Like the bluing's not awful, but you can tell there are certainly parts like the magazine and the bolt that are just, the bluing's pretty much gone. There was no missing parts, but I did have to give the bolts and ejector, pretty much had to take it all apart, a good cleaning to get it working properly. So anyway, this is my first Vettrli, but fits in well with the World War I collection. All right, well, I told you guys this was going to be basically a Carcano heavy video. When I ordered the Mannlicher and the Vettrli from Royal Tiger Imports, I said, screw it, I'll just throw a Mosquito in the mix. I had a 10% off discount code, so they were running it at about $190 for the carbine once it was all said and done. But I ended up getting like a 1916 dated Brescia with really no issues. Some like pitting on the receiver, but other than that, like standard import condition, but can't complain about getting a World War I dated Mosquito for like a random dice roll. So look, if you're going to buy anything from RTI and you want some clear expectations of what you're going to get, their standard Mosquitoes are straight from Italy. Most are refurbished and not from Ethiopia. I'm not talking about their other stuff like their 9124s or the Troop Special Modificatos or even the long rifles. Those are all from Ethiopia, and you're probably going to get crap if you buy those. But the Mosquitoes specifically, cavalry carbines, whatever you want to call them, these are from Italy, and this is basically the condition that you're going to get them in. So again, this is my fourth RTI purchase of the year, and it shouldn't surprise you I got another Mosquito. So besides the Mosquitoes that I've been showing you that are imported from Italy, they started doing individual listings, which is kind of what people have been asking for some time. Again, this is from Italy, like don't get me wrong. But they've been doing a lot of like individual listings for rifles on their website. you can check them out. They don't have like a lot of pictures. They have somewhat of a description, but I think they're trying to like build trust with consumers who are kind of used to RTI sending them crap. And so as they do individual listings, people are like, oh, they actually like describe the rifle, and I see the picture of the rifle that I'm actually getting. I think that does help, maybe boost some sales. I'm not sure. So the interesting thing about this rifle and what I saw about it is it's an early variant, Mosquito. So it means it has no upper handguard. And this one is 1900 dated Brescia. So to date, this is the earliest Carcano I have. Would love to add some antique ones to my collection, but at the moment, the 1900 dated Mosquito. Bore's good, no real issues. Some bluings kind of gone on the upper handguard, but other than that, probably needs a little bit of oil too. But this is what you're going to get for your individual listings. There were some that I saw that were kind of like, well, I'm not sure I would buy that, but it's at least a way to drive traffic and for people to check things out. And like I said, someone might buy one of these individual listed rifles and be like, oh, I can get another rifle for let me throw in a random $200 rifle on there just to add to what I have. And so that's probably another way to make money on their end. So anyway, grabbed it for $380. All right, getting away from Carcanos. Okay, so this is probably the most frustrating purchase of the year. It's an Australian Lithgow, made #1 Mark III Star rifle, and I've been wanting a Lithgow for a long time. I love the Lee Enfields. They've got a great action. They're really smooth rifles. They're really dependable. The 303 is a very nice and clean cartridge. But I think I'm going to call this one a loss, perhaps, in terms of purchases I've gotten this year. So I sold a Gewehr 98M I had for $800. Had bought it for like maybe $580 or $600 a couple years ago. Sold it. Wasn't interwar stuff. Wasn't really part of my collection. Anyway, sold it and had my eyes set on a Lithgow. So long story short, I won this at a Davis Brothers auction. They're an auction house based in Montana. So from door to door, after fees, after the hammer price, auction commission, shipping, and tax, it came out to be $565 for a 1919 dated Lithgow. Not bad on the surface, but when it came in the mail, I saw that the receiver, I'll turn it around for you guys, the receiver and this right here has weld markings on it from what was definitely some dude, probably some Australian farmer, previously welding a scope on it or some kind of mount or peep sights. I'm not really sure. And I thought this was weird because I didn't see them in the original photo. So I went back and went to the listing. Sure enough, the auction house definitely avoided the damaged area intentionally in their listing, or at least it pretty much seemed that way. I did a couple previous videos if you guys want to watch sort of the fallout from that. But anyway, called the auction house and they basically gave me the middle finger on this. Contacted them, said like, look, the pictures that you sent me, even sent them pictures of their listing. So they had like one really, really tall overview of the rifle where you couldn't even really see anything here. And then it was all side pictures. Anyway, it seems like it was one of those, oh, well, you should have been here. Deal's a deal. You bought it. So I'm going to avoid these clowns in the future if you're looking for an honest auction house. That was actually my first auction purchase ever. And so I think that's maybe a red flag for certain auction houses. Probably best to do those in person. But again, I'm not really experienced here. Still a fine rifle. But certainly kind of disappointed, and I would have spent my money elsewhere and continued my search if I had seen that damage prior. Okay, well, I had to throw one non-Carcano in the mix, but we're back at it again. Like I mentioned, I'm chasing Carcano manufacturers, so I grabbed this 1918 dated, 9124 manufactured Mida Brescia rifle. Now, when I got this originally, it had the later variant Truppe Speciali Modificato furniture and rear sights on it. So I'm in the process of turning it back into its original state. So bought some rear sights, bought the loophole that needs to go in here and weld it on. I got to take this off, and I ordered a new upper handguard, and I got to paint it. It's a reproduction one. There's a few other things that I got to do on this. The stock is matching though, but yeah, like I said, originally this was a long rifle that was shortened during the interwar period. Mita only made rifles from 1916 to 1918, and this is an example of one, like I said, that was shortened during the conversion process post-war. I picked up this particular example from a private seller for $200. Okay, well, we're going to end this video with my favorite purchase of the year, an MBT manufactured or converted Truppe Speciale Modificato, manufactured in 1930. MBT is the rarest Carcano manufacturer in terms of numbers produced, and they only secured a contract but for a brief period in 1930, making less than 6,000 rifles. Just to give you all a quick overview, MBT was a private manufacturer that got into the arms game more heavily in the early 1900s, manufacturing various armaments like the Glisenti pistol, various machine guns, and then took contracts to build airplanes and armored cars during the First World War. In the 1930s, the Italian Navy secured contracts from 3 private arsenals to convert stores of long rifles to this new Truppe Speciale Modificato configuration. So instead of purchasing all brand new rifles, they just converted ones that they had in store. So these are technically not newly manufactured rifles, but converted from existing stockpiles. As far as condition, the metal and bore are honestly fine. The stock on this one is kind of rough. I'm not sure why, but it was beat up at one point. It is a matching stock with the barrel, but you know, at least I got one. They only made 6,000 of these, so there's not a lot out there. And I also got this from a private seller, and I picked it up for $475. By the way, none of this is a recommendation of what you should buy or what I think you should buy. You should collect what you want, and only you can know what that is. It's a really cool hobby, it's a lot of fun, and it's something you can usually share with others. It's something where you're in a weird way collecting items that financially appreciate over time, that you also get to shoot mini metal projectiles out of at 2,000 feet per second. Now, in no way is collecting a real financial investment. I've heard a lot of people compare mil surps to the stock market. In my opinion, it's a really silly comparison, and I won't explain here, but this is not something you make money out of unless you plan on going into business, and even then, you're not going to make much. This is a hobby, and do not get into it if your intention is to somehow store old rifles in your basement and then sell them 30 years from now. It's not a good or prudent business or personal financial decision. Buy guns if you enjoy them. Collect them, display them, shoot them. And if you have to sell them in the future for any reason, it's a small marginal benefit that you collect antique guns, and you might make something back, but even then that's not guaranteed 20 to 30 years from now. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Good luck and happy hunting.